Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create. Hope everyone's doing well. Today we're working on Christmas time, Graphic 45's newest collection, and I've got a fun page designed for us, and I still haven't quite got my design completely done because I don't know how I'm going to keep everything closed yet. I'm thinking about using ribbon, which I don't often do, but I'm thinking about doing that for this page. So let's get started. So as a reminder, we are working with a 10 by 8 inch pocket page. You need to make sure the pocket openings are to the left and right. And we are going to have left and right opening flaps. So kind of like a gatefold. And let's start with some measurements. So you're going to have 2 flaps per side. So you're going to need a 4.5 by 8, and you'll need a left one and a right one. So you need 2 of these, 4.5 by 8. And then you're also going to need 2 5 by 8s, 2 5 by 8s. Now the way I'm going to structure this is going to be the bottom flap, this is going to be the top flap, and then inside we're going to have this very shallow pocket that I'm going to run like this. That's going to have some tags in it. And I haven't decided if it's going to be on the A side or the B side yet, but I'm going to set that aside. So before I move on though, I'll let you know that this is 2.5 by 9, 2.5 by 9, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on either side of the 9 inch length, and then a 1/2 inch across the 2.5 inch side. So you'll have this pocket form. So you'll need 2 of those. So for every feature, you're going to do double it. So 2 of these, 2 of the 4.5 by 8, and 2 of the 5 by 8s. Okay. Now, I'm going to move this so you can see, I don't like to stack my hinges like this, one on top of the other. So a way around that is to take your bottom hinge, your bottom flap and hinge, and turn it this way. And then you're going to rest it inside this hinge. So you're actually going to attach the larger flap to the inside of the smaller flap, and then use the smaller flap hinge to attach to the booklet. So I'm going to show you that one more time. And of course the other option is to just lay this hinge on the pocket page and this hinge on top of this. But like I said, I don't like to have those 2 seams on the outside edge. So line your pages up so that these flanges are both going the same direction. And then all you have to do is turn this over, and then you're going to feed this in, and it's going to get installed just like this. So the flange is going to be attached to the flap of the smaller flap. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to apply this tape to this side of the score line. And I like to do this outside because if I need to do any adjusting, I want to do it before I lay it down on the pocket page. So again, we are going to lay this down just to the inside of that score line so that it'll lay down flat. And I'm going to attach one side, and then I want to straighten it, and then I'm going to carefully lay it down. Okay, there we go. So that's in. Now it looks like I got a little tag, and one of the reasons why I like to do it outside the book is I can put that on my trimmer and take it off real quick. Now it's nice and even. Actually, my trimmer folded my paper down, so I'm just going to use my scissors to trim off that little edge there. There we go. So it's nice and straight. Okay, so that's one side. Now we're going to do the other side, same thing. So one is going to open to the left, one is going to open to the right. So I've got both of my flanges going the same direction. I'm going to take my large flange, flip it over, and apply it just like so. Oh, that went in really crooked. Look at that. Well, I'm going to try to straighten that out with my trimmer. Well, I'm not going to try. I'm going to straighten it out with my trimmer. Okay, there we go. So again, that's one of the reasons why I like to do this outside of the book. Okay, now this is my 10 by 8. There's my pockets. And now each one of these is going to get laid down like so. And the way I have designed it is these are going to come in away from the edge about, let's see, a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch. I haven't decided. Let's lay it in and see what it looks like. I'm using my grid to help me with that. That's a 1/4 inch, a 1/4 inch, and then that leaves about a 1/2 inch in between. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So before I attach these to the book, I'm going to get 2 1/4 inch strips and add them to either side, and then we're going to lay those down. So what am I going to use? I need to get my papers trimmed out real quick. And let me see if this is a 1/4 inch. It is. This is one of the cut aparts from this page. And I think I'm going to use that, so I need to go trim out the second one. I've got one trimmed. I'm going to trim out the second one. I'll be right back. Okay, I changed my mind and I decided to use 2 strips that are coming from the Patterns and Solids. And I'm going to lay them down this way. So we're going to put one on each side. And then we are going to add our flaps. So, and I just wanted them inset just slightly. If you're uncomfortable with this kind of color blocking, of course you can just add those flaps to the very edge of the page as well. It won't change the look of the paper. I'm sorry, the album that much. So, hope everybody's doing well. Things have cooled off here in San Diego, although my craft room is very humid right now, but things are taking a turn. My son started back in high school, his senior year, on Monday. So of course we're doing everything online, which has been pretty interesting, challenging. It's so different. So they used to be on a semester schedule. Now they're going to be on a quarter schedule, which that in and of itself is a little different. But, you know, I've been hearing people talk about going to Zoom meetings and how taxing it is. And having sat through a couple of classes with my son, I get it. It's really hard to keep your focus on it. It's definitely not the same as in person. Okay. Oops. Okay, I got a little glue outside the lines there, but we'll just clean that up as we go. There we go. All right, now we're going to add these flaps to the left and right, just like so. And I'm not going to measure this, I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm brave. I know I want the edge of this score to go very close to the edge of this designer strip here. So I'm just going to butt it right up against it. So the key, oops, it grabbed before I was ready. So the key to that is making sure your strips are the same length. It grabbed before I was ready. Okay, there we go. There we go. So there's one side in. Let's do the other side. And I did not dry fit these before I tried to install them, which I should have, but it looks like I'm in good shape because they fit perfectly. It's always a good idea to dry fit before you lay them down, just to make sure your edges aren't going past the pocket page itself. Okay, that looks good. And this time I think I'm going to be a little more cautious and only take up a corner and then pull the strip out once I'm sure I've got it where I want it. So I just fold it back. And I'm going to start on the side that has the tape backing on it. And actually, I'm going to turn it so I can use my grid. So, okay. I was just looking to make sure that this strip is 1/4 inch. It's actually a little bit bigger than 1/4 inch. I'm going to lay my flap right down at 1/4 inch. And I'm looking all the way up and down, and that looks pretty good. Okay, straight. Looks straight. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's where I was telling you I haven't quite finished the design, in that I'm not sure how I want to keep these things closed. I'm not sure if I want to use magnets, which is my kind of go-to, and I think I've mentioned this before, but for those of you that are new, I like magnets because you can place photographs on top of your magnet. When you start to add things like swing tabs and ribbons, you can't add photos on top of those. So, or they sometimes come across your photo, so you lose some of the ability to place your photos wherever you want. You have to sort of work around those elements. So I'm going to think about this for a minute. I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, I went back and forth, but I am going to use magnets. It's, like I said, it's my go-to. And there's a couple reasons why. This collection comes with, if you buy the bundle, it comes with some ribbon. And the ribbon that we have for this, that I was thinking about using for this page, is this grosgrain. And the weight is a little too heavy to get a delicate bow on here. I am going to use a little bit of the grosgrain as a tab to open the panels, but I'm not going to use it as a bow across the center. So that's kind of my final decision. So I also decided where these pockets are going to go. They're going to go on the top, the A side of the large flap, like so. And then we're going to place a magnet here and a magnet here. So the next thing we'll want to do is, and I'll get a contrast sheet here. Yeah, this will work. Is lay down these pockets, because the magnets are going to go on top of them. And again, these are 2.5 by 9. 2.5 by 9. And everything we're doing, we're going to repeat on another page in the book. So sometimes what I actually do when I'm building is I'll do the 2 like pages at a time, just because then the second one goes so much faster, because I've already taught myself how to do the first one. So it's up to you. This is going to be designed like most of my albums, where there are 4 individual page designs and then they get repeated. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4, 3, 2, 1. So 4 and 5 are going to be exact mirror images, and then 3 is the same as 6, 2 is the same as 7, 1 is the same as 8. So just so you know. And that means you can also cut 2 pages at a time, even if you don't build them that way. Okay, here we go. So that's one side. Now we'll do the other. And I recommend having a contrast sheet available, because if you're like me and your light gets weak at the end of the day, or your vision gets a little foggy at the end of the day, being able to see your edges is a big help. A big help. Okay, there we go. Well, let's see. This is a really beautiful collection. I was really anxiously awaiting it, so I'm happy it's here. When I'm finished with this album, I'm going to get started on Ephemera Queen, which is another Graphic 45 collection that's coming out. Okay, so that's going to close. So let's get our magnets in. So I'm going to place a magnet on the pocket, and I got to think for a second about my design if I am doing color blocking. And I'm not sure. So I'm going to leave myself the option by moving my magnet off the center line. So if I want to do color blocking, I can easily do that. So where am I? Just to give you a rough estimate. Like I said, just move it off the center line. I'm right at the bottom of the magnet's right at 5 inches, and of course this is 8 inches tall, so that just gives you an idea. And oops, and my tape is right in the center line, so I'm going to take my tape off and shorten that a little bit. And that way I have the option. I may not do a color block, but that way I have the option. I'm going to roll that back just a little bit and trim this off so that the tape line doesn't go across the center line. If I decide to do some color blocking, I don't always do it this way, but I often like to see a little black line in between. You can actually marry the papers edge to edge. I want to keep that covered because it's going to grab the other side if I don't. There we go. All right. At least until I get my papers picked up. Okay. Okay, so there we go. Those are in, and then we're going to put one more magnet or two more magnets here. So this is highly magnet intensive, but I think it's going to be pretty when we're done. And again, I'm going off center line. Okay, same thing on the other side. And it's right about 5. I don't want to be on center line, so look at that. I didn't come up high enough. So when I close this, my magnet's actually going to be exposed, so I have to move my magnet to the left. So while I'm piddling around with this, so this magnet needs to come up here, otherwise the flap won't completely cover it, and if the flap doesn't cover it, then that means the magnet mate will not be covered. One of the reasons I'm using 2 sets instead of 3 is this magnet is going to have to, there's going to be some tags in here. So if I had a magnet here, it would have to pass through this and whatever tags are in here to be attracted to this, and I think it's going to have too much in the pocket. So I'm erring on the side of caution and adding that extra magnet. Otherwise, if this wasn't a pocket and I wasn't adding more papers to it, I would have done 3 magnets on each side. In case you guys were wondering, why is she doing it that way? That is why I'm doing it this way. Okay, so this is about 5, and of course I'm coming up more toward the center of the flap. Let's see, now I've got plenty of coverage. Okay. There we go. And then we're going to add 2 more magnets. Okay, there we go. Everything's closed. I just love the snap of those magnets. It just delights me to no end. Okay, there we go. So everything is now closed. I need a minute to ink all my edges and we'll get the decorating papers in here in just a minute. So I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna do a little housekeeping, and when I get back, we're going to decorate this page. Okay, so we finished this, and I rethought my magnet placement because I built the other page and I realized there's a way around having all these magnets stacked. So instead of having these two inside magnets stacked here, as much as I love that attraction, I don't like the idea of 4 magnets stacked on top of each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these 2 magnets up, and then we won't have that build up. Okay, so we're just going to move them up to the top half of the page. So the small flap will be held together with the magnets down here, and the large flap will be held together with magnets up here. And then we don't have so much magnet buildup. I was hoping I could get this off because I hadn't burnished it, but that's okay. We'll just get another piece of tape. There we go. Okay, we're going to do that one more time. Okay, so yeah, I'm liking this better. The attraction with stacking all the magnets makes it super strong, which I like, but I just think it's creating too much bulk all in one place. So this makes it much more even, and we still get the same result. We've got the magnets holding everything in place. Maybe this didn't feel like it went down in the right spot. Okay, let's try that one more time. Okay, let's burnish everything into place. There we go. Okay, good. Okay, now they're both the same in terms of magnet location. Okay, well, I'm gonna take a break, get the rest of the papers lined up to decorate these, and I'll be back soon. Hey everyone. Okay, I've trimmed out a couple pieces and we're gonna lay those down, and then I'm gonna kind of start a little bit on, hopefully it'll be smooth on your end, but I've gone ahead and trimmed out the papers that I'm gonna lay in on the pocket here. And it's going to match the 2 that I used on the outside. And by the way, this is from the Patterns and Solids. And while I was doing this, I'm hemming and hawing, and here's why. So I had moved these magnets off the center line, thinking that I might color block this. And my plan had originally been to color block in half, like so. And as you can see, the magnet's not exposed. But I'm changing my mind, and I'm going to tell you why. So when I trimmed off these strips from the 12-inch sheet, that left me these 2 4-inch pieces, which I don't want to go to waste. So I'm actually going to plan on putting them across the center here, like so and like so, and then put some color on top and bottom. And because of that decision, that means I need to shift my magnets back down to the center. And I apologize for shifting those around, but I thought, you know, I really want to make use of these 2 little pieces. I think that'll make it very interesting to look at. So I am going to put these back on the center line. And since everything's going to be centered, I'm just going to go ahead and give myself a little cheat mark right here. So that's my target for the magnet, and right there. And then of course you really only need to move this one, and then you can, it's easy to relocate the rest. I'm not going to try to salvage my tape. And I wish I would have made this decision first, but we were trying to place the magnets before I had the design paper picked out. So that happens sometimes. I am trying to be careful because I don't want to tear the cardstock underneath, because some of it will show. Let's roll that off. There we go. And I'll remove this one. And this will be a solid piece. So we are going to shift the magnet down, but I'm not so worried about it getting damaged. What am I doing? I'm looking for something to pick it up with. Here we go. All right. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that again. So it's going to go about there. And I want to make sure okay. Okay, I think we're going to be good. Let's test this real quick. And what I'm testing for is to make sure that I've got enough coverage that it's actually going to sit on the pocket and not be exposed. Again, I've mentioned this in several videos, but I'm tugging on this pretty hard. If you pull away from the paper that the tape is mounted on at an angle and not straight up, you have better luck removing the tape without bringing some of the cardstock with you. Doesn't always work, but oftentimes it does. So, and if you really want to be sure you don't tear your paper, just put a little undo on there and it'll lift right up. The reason I'm not using it is because in order to, if you do that, you need to make sure that cardstock is really dry before you put tape or glue back on it. And I don't want to wait. I want to start decorating with you guys. So I am not going to use undo for that reason, because I don't want to wait. Okay, flip this last one off. No, this one was not nearly as forgiving as the first, as you can see. And I'm not distressed about it because I am going to cover that up with a solid piece of designer paper. Okay, there we go. Okay, now that's all in place. Now the magnets that we have in here don't need to move because I'm not changing the design on the inside. Okay, so let's get these in. I already inked them. I need my pick tool and glue. And I'm just doing a quick dry fit. And everything looks good. Okay, those are in. All right, now we're gonna put these like so. So I need to trim these down just a little bit. So again, I cut, these are basically 2-inch strips off the length of the 12-inch, and this is what's left over. Once I trimmed it down to 8 inches tall, 2 inches by 12, then trimmed at 8. So I am going to trim these out. I was trying to find my center line. There it is. And I just need to take off a little bit. Let's see how that looks. There we go. Looks good. Now, when I'm covering a magnet, especially with a small piece like this, a lot of times I'll just use markers instead of just trying to do a straight line, because the magnet is creating sort of a dome over with the paper. So by holding it in place, I think I get a truer mark, a truer straight line than if I just did a straight line. So it actually is going to go in at a little bit of a curve. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. How does it look on this side? Looks good. Okay, now I'm not going to glue these down just yet, and here's why. I'm going to find these pieces first, and then we're going to trim them out so that they're all exactly the same width. So I'm going to keep these out, and then I'm going to trim these pieces so that they're exactly the same width, so when I lay it down, you get that nice, beautiful, continuous line. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to select a couple pieces of paper, and I think I'm going to do something kind of simple here, and then I'm thinking about putting red back here. So I'll be right back in just a second. Okay, so here's what I've decided to do. I'm going to use this pattern here inside the pocket, and I've just alternated this pattern. So we've got a couple of options. We can do this pattern with a red stripe, or we can do it this way where we have the two red and then this centerpiece, and I like this a little bit better. It's not as complicated. I want this spread to look pretty simple, and that's why I'm only using basically 3 colors, the cream, red, and black, because I am going to use some inserts here, and then I want that gives me a little bit more freedom on what colors I put inside my pockets. So that's my thought process with this color scheme. So with that, I think what we're going to do is we will set these aside for the moment. We're going to get these centered and put down this way, and then we're going to come back and measure and add the contrast colors on top. So I'm going to start by laying these in, and I may actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to start by laying these in because I forgot they're still loose. So let's get some ink on these and lay them inside the pocket. This is from the Patterns and Solids. So everything you see here is Patterns and Solids so far. Okay, I'm supposed to remind y'all that I believe it's October, but it could be November. We stopped shipping art glitter glue, and so does art glitter. So if you have not already stocked up on your art glitter glue, go ahead and do that, or put yourself a little reminder in the next, I think it could be as much as 8 weeks. we'll stop shipping. And of course, that's because they stopped shipping to us, so we won't be able to do it. And that is because of temperature concerns. I think if the temperature gets below 40 degrees, I think is what they say, they won't ship because they can't guarantee the quality of the glue. Love it, love it. Super simple, clean, but like I said, that gives us a lot of flexibility on whatever color we want to put inside these pockets. Nala came to sit with me. She's being a little sweetie. If I ever get my craft room cleaned, I know you guys are laughing at me. If I ever get my craft room cleaned, I will maybe try to do a little video with Nala, but it is such a disaster. I'm embarrassed to show it on film. We had some housework done, and my craft room became sort of the staging area for a lot of stuff, and I have not really taken the time to declutter it. It's always something else gets in front of it. I'm sure you guys can relate. Sure you can relate. It's not high on the priority list. I'd rather make a mini album than clean my room. Okay, so there we go. Now I already put a small tick mark here on the midpoint to place the magnet, so I have a pretty good idea of where this is going to go in. But just to make it simple, I'm going to put a little mark on this side to show the halfway point. The halfway point on here too. So all I got to do is line up those two marks, and then I can erase that after I get it installed. And it looks like it's already inked, so we're going to dry fit this one more time. And it looks good. Pick tool. I started working on this album before the paper actually got here. I'm not sure it's always kind of a challenge. I know the graphic collections well enough to know the size of the ephemera cards and roughly the size of the patterns because I've worked with them so much. But generally, my preference is to build a book around the paper. So I only did some of the designed some of the pages before the paper got here, knowing that I would have to design the second half of the book after it got here to take full advantage of the design. So hopefully it turns out good and you guys are happy with the results. Okay, now this is not inked yet either. So I am going to put a little spacer between each one of these panels. I just think that looks really pretty. It's not for everybody. It's very tedious. If you don't like it, just butt it right up against there. That's another option, right? But I am going to need to trim each one of these. So you guys are going to need to be patient with me while I trim these to fit. As much as I love the way color block looks, it is quite tedious. So usually, as a rule of thumb, when I'm doing some color blocking, you always want to put down the smallest pieces first, because if you need to trim anything to fit, it's much easier to handle the larger pieces in the trimmer. So that's the way I always do it. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get them the same width. Once I have them the same width, then it's very easy for me to come down to the bottom and put a mark on either side. And then when I lay it in my trimmer, I'm going to line up the pencil marks. And the reason I do it that way is in the event this did not go in perfectly square, if I trim at the marks, then I can make it appear square. I can square it up visually. If I just do a straight line, and this was in crooked, this will go in crooked and you'll see it on the bottom. And hopefully that makes sense. It's hard to explain that. And you know what I'm looking at? I think I over trimmed my piece of paper. See, I think I over trimmed my piece of paper. So I'm gonna pitch that and get the next one. And I'm liking that a lot better. Okay, I'm gonna go slowly. Let's see how we're doing. Good, we're doing good. Okay, now we just need to shorten it up. Okay. Okay, I'm happy with that. Get it in. I'm going to dry fit it both ways. This way. And I'm going to turn it around and look at it this way. And it might fit one way better than the other. And it looks about the same. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it in this way. Now we're going to do the next one. This is the one I trimmed out first. I'm going to see if I can make it work here, and I don't think I'm going to like that. Yeah, it didn't trim square, so I'm not happy with it, so we're not going to force it. I've got enough paper that I'm just going to go pick up another one. Now, if you don't like going through all this trouble, of course, this just could be one panel, right? It really is just a preference. That looks good. It actually fits this way a tiny little bit better. There we go. I think that looks very nice. A little bit too much glue. Okay, now we're going to repeat that process on this side. I think that looks really lovely. Now we have these large ephemera cards, which are the 4x6. And so I'm thinking I'm going to use these. It's getting stuck on something. In the pockets. but I'm not sure. I haven't decided, but if I do, they're going to be cards, meaning they'll fold in half. So I haven't decided. We'll come back to that. But like I said, because we've got such simple color spread here, we have lots of options. Lots and lots of options. Okay, I'm going to find my center line here and my center line here. Hey, Nala. Okay, that's the center. And then this is 2 inches wide. So 1 inch is the center. And again, this is the trimmed off piece from this basically. This is a 2-inch deep pocket. It's actually 2.5 inches with a flange underneath. So it's 2 inches across the top. So what I have here is trimmed down to 1 7/8. That's why it's a little bit narrower. But this is a strip that came, or the remainder of this strip when I trimmed it out. So we don't waste any paper, and we find good use for our scraps. It's also, I mean, it was 4 inches wide, so it's a good trim piece for a lot of things. A lot of our photo mats are 4 inches wide, so it would have been a good trim piece on a photo mat. It's already inked, ready to go. Okay, I'm looking for my pencil mark there and there. And they're lined up. Okay, there we go. Now we've got these pieces. We'll trim them out. Just a little tiny bit. Double check. Actually, I think that's gonna work. So let's just shorten it. A little more. I'm using Powder Puff in Mahogany. Right now, that is my favorite brown. But generally, I just go for the dark browns. I think they're the most universal color. Okay, now I've got a little bit of pencil here. I'm going to use my kneaded eraser to remove that. There we go. Looks good. Last piece. I'm going to see if I can't salvage. Yeah, it looks like I can. So sometimes, you know, it's just the nature of paper. When you start putting score lines and things, it changes the size of the paper because it actually consumes part of the paper when you fold it over. Anyways, I'm able to use the 4 that I had originally trimmed out, which is good. I had more paper if I needed it, but I think I'm going to make it work with the 4 that I had originally trimmed out. I just swapped where they went. So if you try it and it doesn't fit, don't toss it. Check it in another location first. I'm trying to be cautious because I don't really want to cut into another piece of paper if I don't have to. That looks pretty good. I know that's tedious, guys, but doesn't it look pretty? There we go. Look at that. Yay. Okay, so that's the B side of the top flap. And of course, we still have a long way to go. This is going to be a nice album. It's going to have a ton of photo storage and photo mount space. So for now, I'm just going to leave it like so. And then it's time to start planning the inside. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to figure out, so this seam right here is going to show with these two layers. So I'm going to try to figure out what is going to look the best with what I choose for the top. And then once we know what we're putting down the center, we can make some more decisions about what goes in the inside layout for this page. So I'll be right back. Hey everybody. Okay, so I've got, I think, everything laid out. I'm going to set this aside, but I think I'm going to do a topper here, and I haven't decided, but that's what I was looking at. This is what we're going to put on top. And of course, you know, we've already done this side, and then on this side, I've chosen these Christmas trees to go right here. So with all that said, let's, you know what? I'm having a magnet breakdown for some reason. I don't know why I'm struggling so much with magnets today, but we had to remove these and place them. I'm looking at this. I don't know why this is so far over from the edge. I'm not sure it really matters, but I'm not used to it, so it's kind of bugging me. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and get these top panels on. So let me tell you what I got. This is from the 12 by 12 collection pack. And I'm going to use these here on these top panels. And I think they're pretty much trimmed right, but they do need to be inked. And while I'm doing this, I'm contemplating moving my magnets again. I hate to do that to you guys. I'm not sure you care that much if you want to move them or not. I'm just dry fitting. Okay, so now I'm turning it sideways, and I like to do that so I can see 3 out of the 4 sides. It helps me get it in straighter. I think I'm ready to go. I'm liking the way this page is turning out. It has a lot going on. There we go. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing over on this side. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then there's our B side. We know. Now we're ready to do this. So it's our last chance to take a look at magnet placement and what to do. think I'm going to move the magnets, and here's why. I'm sorry for doing all of this. I feel like since it's trying to hold from the center, it's just not holding as firmly as I like. And I think I want it in the center. I mean, not in the center, closer to the edge of the page. So I don't want it in the center because that's where these magnets are, and I don't want to stack them. So I'm going to go below it, but I am going to go closer to the edge of this panel. But I am going to go up a little bit. So I'm going to go about right here. And again, I apologize for messing around with magnet placement so much. I don't usually do this. I'm kind of lost my mojo, I guess. Which happens. It's been a long time since I did a graphic album. It feels like forever. Which my graphic albums tend to be a little bit more complex because more interactive, I guess. Complex is probably not the right word. Because I have so much paper to work with. And it's been a while since I did one. So there's our other magnet. I'm gonna use a magnet right here to show you where it's at. So I just want to steer clear of that, and I want to be close to the edge. So I think I'm happy with that. Okay. So that means this magnet will move also. Okay, let's go ahead and remove this as well. I need to cap my glue while we're messing around with this so it doesn't dry. There we go. Again, you can use undo to release your tape. I'm not doing that because I don't want to wait for my paper to dry. If I was not in a hurry and not trying to get this video out, I probably would use the undo just to save your paper. But as you can see, it didn't tear. So as long as you're being careful. All right. So we're going to lay down this one. So I think I'll be much happier with this. I think getting closer to the edge of the flap is going to hold everything into place more securely, and I think in general we'll all be happier with that. Okay, and so I'm going to use my Tim Holtz ruler and just kind of get a rule of thumb. I'm just trying to stay on roughly the same line. It's not that important. It's really more important to get to the edge. That's not quite big enough, actually. I said big, but I meant wide. There we go. All right, and then once we do this, we can get our centerpiece in, which I've selected, but I do think I need to trim it down a little. Yes, that's holding much better, so I'm happy with that. Okay, let's get these brushed down. Okay, so got sticky everywhere now. Little housekeeping. Okay, so this is from the 12 by 12 collection pack. And we're gonna put it right here. And then the way I've designed it is I actually wound up trimming a little off both ends so that the Christmas tree kind of falls to the middle. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. So you may wanna, so I trimmed it to 8 inches by, let's see, what is this? Yeah, 8 inches by 9.5, which is a little wider than you need it to be. You're gonna have to trim it a little. So I put it in there and then I closed the flaps to see where the Christmas tree was falling to figure out which side I needed to trim that little extra bit off. It turned out for me it was on this side. But if you don't care that much about having the pattern line up to the seam, then I wouldn't sweat it. I don't think it makes that much of a difference, and I think it looks good both ways. And as you can see, I'm not perfectly on. My trees would be over a little further this way to be perfectly in the middle. So, and that leaves a little bit too much of a gap over here. So I'm gonna go with what I have. I think it looks nice enough. And then of course, you'll trim it down 1/8 of an, so as in all my albums, I've got a 16th inch border, which means that my paper is 1/8 inch shorter, 1/8 inch narrower. And then when I center it on the panel that it goes on, it's a 16th inch border. So this actually turned out to be 7 7/8 inch high by, I don't know, 9 and, but always dry fit, 9 3/8. That's what I was gonna say, but I wanted to check 9 3/8. So that's what it turned out to be to fit here. But you do need to dry fit because depending on exactly where your panels went in, because we came in roughly 1/4 of an inch, check, check, check before you trim and glue. You wanna make sure you're outside of the hinge area so the pages will open and close freely. And that is that. And we're making some progress. Okay, see, that looks nice, doesn't it? Okay, now we need to find some papers to go on the B side of the bottom flap. And that's just an extra magnet. It needs to get put back. Okay, so let's go back and look at what we have. We have a lot of red. So I think I might want to do something green here. So I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, I picked this lovely green pattern from the Patterns and Solids, and I've kind of gone back and forth about doing color blocking here or just keeping it solid. I kind of, you know, I love color blocking, but I think this page has a lot going on. Just thinking it through at the moment. So one option would be just to have this solid, and the other would be to color block it like so, or to put a green strip in between. So I think I'm gonna leave it solid as is. So an easy way to color block in this case, because it's a pattern and solid, is to cut this in half and then just alternate the patterns. So that makes it super easy. If you wanted to get a different look and you're following along with me, this doesn't change out any of your other paper. You could get that slight variation to yours without changing anything else, just by cutting this in half and only flipping 1/2 over. So it's just something to think about. And conversely, on the other side where I did do the color blocking, if you didn't want to do color blocking, you just leave that a solid piece. Get my soda out of your view. Okay, how does that look, guys? What do you think? I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, I've inked it, so we're ready to go. This reminds me, I've done a page kind of like this. It might have been Bloom, although I did it vertical, where I had sort of the open and then opens again. I think it was Bloom. That was a while ago. But I can tell you, I know I put the pocket in a different place, but that's about all that's different. It's really hard to be totally original because, I mean, how much can you do with a flap, right? So most everything you see I've done somewhere before in one of my albums. So there we go. Now I'm looking at this and this looks gorgeous to me, but it still seems like it needs a little something something. So I'm thinking about doing this. Adding this as like a topper. And then using this small ephemera card here, and then leaving this bottom, having it slightly offset, leaving this bottom open to add a little bit of chipboard down here on the bottom. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So now the question is, which panel am I gonna actually attach it to? I'm not sure, but let's start by just getting this laid down, getting some ink and laying this down. This is, what I did was 5 by 6. So this is 6 by 5. And then I just trimmed out a piece of paper to fit it. And it was just kind of eyeballing it. One of the other reasons I wanted to do this on top, one, I like the way it looks, but two, I kind of wanted to pull in this green pattern for the page that this sits next to, so that I can use this pattern on the next page and it'll flow over very nicely. Okay. Okay, and then, like I said, I'm going to offset this so that it's toward the upper left-hand corner. And then I'm going to add some embellishments down here, probably with the Graphic 45 chipboard, although I haven't decided yet. I got the paper and I haven't got the chipboard yet. They didn't put everything in the same package, so I don't have it yet, so I'm not sure, but I'll do something down here, even if it's just a bow. Okay, so it's just going to be slightly toward the, in this case, upper left-hand side. And this is cardstock backed. And that's just because I want that little matte frame around it. I think it helps pop the card. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to decide which way I'm going to open it. It doesn't really matter because they both open either way. The only thing that matters is I want to get something on the back of this, so that's the only thing that matters. So I'm actually going to look and see if I have an ephemera card that'll fit there. No, I don't, because it's 5 inches, not... Okay. I had to think about that. We could... Nope, that's too small. Too small. And I don't like the green here because, well, that's what it's going to look like when it's open. So I think I might be tempted to do red here. But it looks good this way, so it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I guess. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is it's going to go in this way. So I'm going to flip it over centered. And then I think I'm going to attach it to the left-hand side. And I'm only laying it down this way to put a couple pencil marks so that I don't run my glue past that point. Okay. Trying to decide if it's going to lay down flat enough. This was an afterthought. If I had thought of this originally, I would have put magnets behind this and this could have held the whole thing closed, but it's an afterthought. So that's where I am right now. So I'm going to actually not glue this down right now. I'm going to wait and do some work on the other pages, make sure I'm really comfortable with this, because it'll be adhered on this side, and I just want to make sure it's going to lay down flat and not want to pull back since there's not a whole lot to grab onto here. And if I don't use it here, I will use it somewhere else in the book because I really like the look of it. And I do feel like something needs to be happening in the middle here. And one of those somethings could be a piece of chipboard that I don't have yet. So I'm going to set this aside. But I do like the way it looked. And like I said, that's 6 by 5. And then this is just a matted ephemera card. And for the moment, I'm just going to tuck it in here because I might want to use that later. Okay, that's it for this page, unless I decide to add that, and if I do, there'll be an addendum to this video right at the end. I'll just sneak something in. So that's it for now. I'll be back soon.